In the last 15 years, the United States has witnessed a huge growth in the percentage of the homeless population.
What I usually see on the streets, it's mostly males that are on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of females though as well, and there's a surprisingly huge amount of kids that are on the street that vary from ages from 4 to 21, and it's really sad to see that, and they have so much ahead of them, and it's really disappointing. There's also a lot of dogs that the homeless people keep around that they can't even take care of themselves.
According to Sheltered Persons and Families, 59.8% of homeless people are children, 31.9% are women, and 8.3% are males.
Therefore, candidates should be discussing how to lower the number of homelessness in the U.S.
I mean, most homeless people, as we know, are drug addicts or alcoholics.
Yeah.
And it's definitely really hard to get rid of that addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And most shelters, when you go into a shelter, you can't have any of that.
In 2015, 8% of the homeless population are reported to have issues with alcohol and or substance abuse, and 9% deal with substance abuse alone.
According to the U.S. Department of Justice, it is estimated that there are 1.6 million homeless and runaway youth in this country.
Homeless is not a real surprise here, too. The number one state in terms of homeless is California, with 137,000. New York, 77,000. Florida, 48,000. Texas with 30,000 homeless. This is as of 2013. And Maine with 19,000 unexpectedly. The other ones are fairly obvious population centers, but what's going on in Maine?
Well, there is a tremendous problem with rural homelessness. Homelessness is very much driven by the lack of affordable housing, and that is an issue that affects nearly every community across this country. There are lots of people who can't afford the rent. And so even in the larger states you mentioned, we see homelessness in larger numbers in metro areas where there's skyrocketing rents. In places like Maine, New England, rural parts of the South, we also find homelessness for the same reasons. Folks are either unable to afford housing, or they are in some way disabled or in need of support that they're not finding. And the services on the local level aren't sufficient to meet that.
Although being homeless is bad, some people pretend to be homeless because they are able to make more money and they don't have to pay taxes.
In 2010, over 90% of entitlement benefits from government programs had guaranteed help to elderly, disabled, or working households. It has been recorded that 91% of these benefits had gone to the elderly, disabled, and working households, leaving little room for non-working, non-disabled, and non-elderly citizens to take advantage of the remaining benefits.
As of 2014, San Diego ranks 5th in the nation for the number of homeless people that we have, right behind New York, LA, Las Vegas, and Seattle.
Studies show that almost half of the homeless population in America have been reported as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender, also known as LGBT youth. The remaining 60% are considered straight, however.
LGBT youth are at particular risk of homelessness because they are so often rejected by their families, schools, and communities.
PIT estimates of sheltered people from 2007 at 671,888 down to 2013, 610,042. Why is that a sign of success in the U.S. that the issue of homelessness is being addressed?
It's not being addressed to the scale of the problem. And so if you take the numbers that HUD counts in terms of people they can actually find on the streets or in shelters and extrapolate it to zero, we're about 40 years away from getting to a condition in this country without homelessness. And so while there's been some progress made, it's slow progress, and it certainly doesn't meet the scale of the crisis.
2015 statistics show that the current steps the U.S. government is taking is much more expensive and unorganized than moving homeless off the streets and into homes. The United Way of San Diego County has created a new project called Project 25. Their goal is to decrease the homeless population in an effective way. They take in 36 of the most chronically homeless in San Diego off the streets for good and offer housing, medical care, and other services. Thanks to this program, after 3 years, Project 25 has managed to save millions in taxpayer money.
Therefore, candidates should take the time to talk about homeless and how they can help.